Personal Power Institute presents the Black Perspective. Hi, my name is Brother Christopher X, and we'd like to start off the show by greeting our beautiful black brothers and sisters of the Christian community, the Muslim community, the nationalist community, the Latino, Mexican, and La Raza community, in the greeting words of peace. We say it in that beautiful poetic language of the Arabic tongue of Assalamu alaikum, but it simply means peace be unto you. Brothers and sisters, I have a special guest here today, straight from Chicago, Brother Abel Muhammad. And brother, I listen to you when I'm listening to the broadcast on Sundays via the computer, and I always say, boy, that's a strong Mexican brother right there, boy. And I was always wondered if there was any more like you, brother.
Oh, there's a few. There's quite a few.
Okay. So, brother, I want you to introduce yourself to the listening audience, let them know a few things about yourself, and then we get started.
Yes, sir. My name is Brother Abel Muhammad. I born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. It's my first time coming into Wilmington. I've been in the area before in Philadelphia, but I've never come in to speak. So this will be our first time in the valley here speaking, and very anxious to share what we have to offer with our people. I have at home 3 beautiful daughters and a son and a wife of 12 years now, and I've been working with for the upliftment of black and brown and red and the indigenous and original people of the planet Earth since 1998 as a member of the Nation of Islam, but it really started when I first started studying the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad back in 1992. Ever since then, I've been on a path to see how and where we can link up, and I've found that through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because of the pure truth within those teachings, we have a great and a great benefit of gaining the knowledge of ourselves, which allows us then to know ourselves and know ourself in kind, which makes a simple and easy base for us to unite upon. Unlike trying to unite politically or economically, this is the truth, and it is only with the truth that we can unite. And that's been my mission in helping the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and our people to see themselves as God sees us so we can be ourselves.
Yes, sir. That was beautiful, Brother Abel. All right, we're going to start with the questions now, listening audience. My first question I have, Brother Abel, is you seem to be a very conscious Mexican brother. Mm-hmm. In the Mexican community or Latino community, do they understand, like we do in the nation, that their names have been taken from them, their language has been taken from them, their religion has been taken from them, but not necessarily their culture, Brother Abel? Can you talk about how that we will be able to, you know, come into agreement with that, you know, because we know our names and language and you know, folkways and all that stuff was taken, but in the Mexican community, do they know that?
No, for the overwhelming majority don't know. They believe, and many of our people believe that their origin begins with the coming of the Spaniards.
The conquistadors.
The conquistadors from Spain, from Portugal, Germany, British that came. So there's a pride in that Spanish surname, Rodriguez,
right.
Perez, and they have no idea or very little idea of their indigenous original roots from the indigenous people who live here, except that it's paid, you know, some lip service.
Okay.
But the key to that is also they're deprived of having value in that indigenous root, mm-hmm. and also in the African root, okay. that is a part. Now it is beginning to come up. All throughout Latin America and even in Mexico, there's little pockets of people who are taking back their indigenous names. Okay. But for the majority of our people have no idea. They're just busy trying to survive day to day, and they don't understand the connection between not knowing who you really are to our current condition. And it's because really what is lacking is the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's that truth. It's not just knowing that you're an Indian, knowing that we built pyramids. That's good, but that's not even our beginning.
That's right.
So we have to go all the way through to the root. And I've noticed that in the last 10 years, let's say, the last decade, going even to 2005 from the Millions More movement, if you notice, right after that in 2006, is when these vast marches for immigration reform started, and we became involved in it as a Nation of Islam. Okay. And it's interesting because it went from a cry for amnesty, and they referred to themselves as immigrants. Now you have many of them calling themselves the original people.
All right.
And that comes from the influence of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because why are we calling ourselves immigrants in the land of our fathers?
That's right, that's right.
And so that brother, is a key thing, that we don't see ourselves properly because we see our origin coming from the only real immigrant, which is the Europeans who came over. That's right. So that's something that has to be taught to our people, because they see their condition so poor, mm-hmm. that they can't even get a job. So when they see somebody's offering them the job, even if it's just crumbs,
Right.
they feel like, oh, this is so much better because I can feed my family. It becomes a very basic instinct thing where they're looking for just whatever they can to better their condition, and they don't want to really deal with it. They don't think they can change the condition at home, so they think that the only thing they can do is come to America where anything can happen. They have this, they've bought into the whole American dream. Those divisions from language also made it easier, though there were a lot fewer of the conquerors that came, because we couldn't speak the same language.
Same thing in Africa when we got on the boat.
Exactly. That tribalism has hurt us. So now it's not so much, even people who are reclaiming their indigenous past, they can't even connect to the right tribe necessarily. So there's people from the Mexica tribe in Mexico who are saying Lakota prayers in the Lakota language, because the beauty of it is now that we've lost so much that we just want to reclaim any of it.
So that's a good thing.
The one thing that was a division, now it's helping to bring us back together. But we have several brothers who are processing right now.
Okay.
And even just on a weekly basis, I get emails or calls from not just within the United States, but outside the borders now.
Right.
There's study groups in Brazil, Belize, Puerto Rico, Mexico. At the university level in Mexico, there are people watching every Sunday, tuning in, and they text or will email me questions that they may have. They're watching every Saturday night.
That's beautiful.
And so they're texting the questions, and what they're starting for the first time, which goes back to the first question you asked me, they're for the first time seeing that, look at that, what Minister Farrakhan, who's supposedly a black leader, is addressing is the same things that are affecting me here in Mexico. They're affecting me here in Cuba, they're affecting me here in Brazil, and they're starting to listen to him because his language is so perfect right now that he's addressing universally what the problems are. So all of us are suffering everywhere, and nobody has any kind of position or program that would relieve that stress and that struggle, except for the program of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And his program is finally falling on the ears of a generation of people who aren't buying into the system, because there is no system for them to buy into. They're revolting in the streets in not just Venezuela, but they're not falling for the same schemes and tricks of the past. Well, not the brothers who just live there. Now, if they belong to a street organization, they have rivals wherever.
Yeah, because I know we can live together, because I live in a community where there's Mexicans and blacks, and everything is fine. The children play with each other. There's no problem whatsoever. So I'm feeling what you just said.
And so it's interesting, though, because who controls that media that is trying to disseminate the information that there is a division, that there's warring? I talk to the brothers and sisters who work in the prisons. Again, in the prisons, it's not necessarily racial, it's based off those borders of gang infiltration. So you kind of have to always, as the Holy Quran tells us, whenever unrighteous person brings you news,
you got to check it out.
Look it out. Look carefully into it. And the media, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said, no media is our friend.
That's right. That's right.
So we have to always measure it with, well, why are they reporting this? How did this make a top story above what's happening in the world today?
What's the agenda?
Exactly. How did this occupy space and time, and why is it being reported from this angle when, for the most of us, we don't know anything about what's going on in the prisons. We don't know anything about the gangs on the West Coast, yet we have a sense that something bad is happening. But when I went there, I'm not saying that there's not fighting. There's killing every day, especially in Oakland. But the biggest problem that they had there was the police killing our people. Now that's not being reported everywhere.
That's right. Same in Philadelphia.
Exactly.
Now, brother, I know that you've had personal contact with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at dinners and other affairs.
Blessed.
Is there a time period for the teachings that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave to black people? Is there a certain time period? Have you ever heard the minister say that time could expire on black people in these teachings? Because when are we going to get them? He's been here, the teaching's been here since 1933, 34. Now it's 2013. We still haven't tried it. We've tried everything else, but we still have not tried these teachings. Is there an expiration date on these teachings for us as black folk?
There's not so much that there's an expiration on the teachings. There's an expiration on the time that we'll have to accept it or reject it.
Okay, that's kind of like what I mean.
Right, yeah. That there'll be that. And we're in that. That's why we're in the final call.
Oh, okay.
And that's why he's going, I believe, the minister going on a 52-week program to teach us, just pour it all out.
I've heard
in such
every
a
week,
simple,
brother.
yes sir, and just in such a simple way that whether you're college educated, whether you've never gone to school, whether you're light-skinned, dark-skinned, you should be able to listen to it. But he has told, I've heard him say this in regards to the time frame. He said that, you know, in our lessons, it talks about a first term and then a second term examination.
Yes, it does.
And he had us define the word term. And a term is a limit. And of course, the Quran talks about every nation having a term,
Yes,
and every
it does,
nation has a
yeah.
limit. So what we're looking at here is not that there's a limit to black people, but there's definitely a limit to this world that we're currently in.
Okay.
And God coming to claim us, he put a limit on how long he would give the enemy. That limit is based on how long it takes us to accept it. Of course, the scriptures tell us, give a bleak forecast as to how many of our people will accept it. But in our lessons and from the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as well as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the scriptures give us one number, which is a small number that will be saved.
144,000.
That's right, but they said they could get all of us.
That's right.
And that's what we're looking at. So that may require that we have some extension of time. And all we can do is keep working, because the hour is coming where we won't be allowed to work. And if we see the schemes of the enemy currently working in regards to how they've treated the prophets of the past, and now we see them again resurfacing in the way that they're handling the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we know that that time frame is getting shorter. And those of us who have knowledge, we have to work better. And I'll say this in regards to the time. You just reminded me, brother. When we had the Day of Atonement last year, I was blessed to be in the airport with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he asked me to come sit with him. And he was telling me some things that he was going to do. This was last October.
Okay.
And he said to me, he asked me what I thought about something. And at that time, we've been going into the streets every Monday. And Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan personally has led us into the streets.
Yes, sir.
And I was telling him about a situation of something that had happened. And he said, I've got to do more. Now, this is a man who's been working over 50 years, who's personally, he just finished teaching for days in Charlotte, and he's on an airplane to go back to Chicago to another meeting, and then he said, and I said, well, brother minister, I was shocked that he said that. I said, you do so much already. He said, but I have to do more. He said, no, I can do more.
You know.
And he said, like, go, because I was telling him about a situation. He goes, like, I could have gone there. And I'm looking like, well, wow, if he's not doing enough, then I know I'm definitely not doing enough.
The same here, brother. Definitely the same here. Now, do you feel, this is just an opinionated question for you.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel as though if the Mexican people grabbed the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, used those teachers, started to rise up, do you think black people would get jealous and say, oh, those are our teachings, how dare you take our teachings?
There are aspects of that, but sometimes that's what's needed for us to recognize the value. Yeah. You ever seen a brother who had a woman and he was mistreating her until somebody else wanted her, then all of a sudden she becomes a lot more attractive?
Yep. And that may need to happen here, Brother Abel, for the black man really to grab onto these teachings. And I'm hoping that it's our Mexican brothers and sisters are the ones that grab this thing, because we're in the same condition as they are in, and so is the American Indian. Have you been on any American Indian reservations?
I've never gone to the reservations, but in Chicago, we 2 weeks ago now, we had for the first time the Sacred Four Direction Run, which was conducted by the native tribes, and as well as the Nation of Islam partook in it. And all of the tribes gathered, and we basically ran 4 marathons, one from the north, one from the south, one from the east, one from the west, and we met at the same time at the same central point.
Beautiful.
And with them, I've noticed a different openness to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And from them, many of the elders, I learned what they knew about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his visits to the reservations that we know very little about.
Right. Do you know any of the places that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad visited?
I know it was in, of course, the Four Corners area in Phoenix and in New Mexico, and specifically in that Phoenix area, I was blessed to meet one of the brothers who if I remember correctly, it was his older brother that used to go and pick up the messenger at a certain location to take him in to meet with the private tribal councils.
Wow.
And from what I was told from some of the elders, they saw the kinship of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he stayed many times and just studied and learned with them, and other times he would teach to them about the meanings of some of their rituals. And so that's why when they come, that tribe of warrior tribes, they come, and they were told by their elders, whenever you need assistance in a city, go to the mosque of the Nation of Islam. So that's going back 50, 60, 70 years now, a history that we don't know about, but at the right time, that'll even be reintroduced to us.
Wow. Brother Abel, the program is starting to wind down, and what I wanted you to do was, I wanted you to, in about 4 or 5 minutes, go ahead and say something to the Latino community, brother.
And if I could, I would encourage, I know we have here in the Delaware and in the region and in the area, we have people from Mexico, we have people from Puerto Rico, people from Central America, South America, Guatemala, that's right, people from the Caribbean as well. And I don't want you to think that you're distant from your black brother or sister who was enslaved and brought to America, because our people were enslaved. When the Europeans found our Indian and indigenous parents, they tried to enslave them, and they did. Some of them were shipped all the way back to Europe and died there. Some of our people then ran, and then when the black slaves came, they had already formed new tribes with them, and we had places of refuge for our black brothers to come to. And the enemy stepped in and forced us to be divided from one another, making us think that we were superior to our black brother who was here, when in fact we're family of one another. And we can tell the same enemy that won't treat us better is not going to treat our black brother better, and vice versa. If they're not treating them better, they know that we're family to one another, and they fear us uniting with one another. Don't be afraid of that unity. If we united, we wouldn't have to fight anyone. We wouldn't have to shed a drop of blood. We would be the power overnight, but we would have to overcome the disunity which the enemy has falsely taught us about. And the only thing that can replace that and remove that is truth, because from that truth we'll be able to grow into the proper vision and eyesight and see one another properly and love one another properly, and then be towards one another as we should be, and then we would have peace. And if we have peace, what else do we need? And that's what we need, regardless if we're Mexican, regardless if we're so-called Africans in America, regardless if we're from Central America or Latino or Hispanic. What we're looking for is peace, and we cannot have it when we continue to act and function off of lies. And what we have in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is not a conversion of another religion. It's a teaching which gives us the knowledge of self and the knowledge of God, which allows us to be ourselves regardless of whatever label you want to call yourself. If you want to stay in church, but know the truth. If you don't like religious institutions, fine, but know the truth. If you don't like school, well, that's fine, but know the truth, and then function and do the best that we can based off that truth. And there's only one place that has been proven for the last 80 years now where that truth is freely available to you, where you can take it, and we have a track record of it uplifting and changing us and creating unity, and that's in the Nation of Islam under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So don't think that you'll be mistreated. Come and see the truth for yourself so you can see how we really are functioning as brothers and sisters to one another.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Abel. Brothers and sisters, as we wind down the program, I always love to show y'all periodicals. This right here is the Islamic Post. It's an international newspaper that all the Muslims read. It's got wonderful information in it. This is the latest final call. When you see a brother on a bow tie on the corner, it only costs $1. Get this paper. It's a powerful source of information in our community. And the book that I have for y'all today is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's book, The Message to the Black Man. And I'll leave y'all with something from Brother Elijah Muhammad. His teacher asked him, who is the original man? And his answer was that the original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the God of the universe. My name is Brother Christopher X. My special guest is Brother Abel Muhammad. And we'll see y'all next week, brothers and sisters. Masalam.